Hi everyone! Today we're going to talk about how to write a mystery, part 3 in our series of 4 parts. Today's lesson and objective is we are going to be learning about the different kinds of characters that authors include into their stories. So then you can transfer that knowledge into the writing of those kinds of characters into your own stories. Here we go! So why is the development of good characters important? That is one thought that I'd like you to take a moment to discuss with your teacher and then come on back and I will share my opinion with you. Well, in my opinion, the development of good characters is important. We get hooked into a story when we create connections with the characters. How are they like us and how are they different from us? What is it that makes us want to keep reading about them? Their physical features, personality traits, and the quirks of a character. All these things will help bring that person to life for an author's audience, which is what you want to do. Are those some of the things you came up with your teacher? I hope so, and I bet you came up with a lot of other great ideas too. The first kind of character we're going to discuss is one called a protagonist. Some of you may have heard that word before. The protagonist is the main character in the story. I'd like you to take a minute to think about some examples of protagonists that you have loved in your favorite mysteries or fiction stories. You can see 2 of mine below. For those of you who are all Harry Potter fans like myself, I've got Harry Potter and Hermione as 2 of my favorite protagonists. Have your teacher pause this for a minute so that you can turn to a partner and talk about your favorite protagonist in one of your favorite stories. Now I'd like you to take some time as a class and brainstorm the traits of a protagonist that you are reading about, whether it be in a read aloud that you're doing together or whatever your reading story is for the class. So there are 3 things I want you to take a look at as you discuss this with your teacher. One is personality traits of that character. Second, the physical traits of that character. And third, some of the quirks that make that character unique. Then we'll come on back and take a look at a few more questions. Now with your class again, I want you to take a look at a few more questions about your protagonist, just so we get to know your protagonist more. The first question is, what is that person's name? How old is she or he? Where does that character live? Who is in the character's family? And what is that person's main goal? So take a pause and discuss those things and then come back and we'll go on to the second kind of character in this story. So the second kind of character you'll find in a story is one called an antagonist. The antagonist creates obstacles that the protagonist has to overcome. Right now, take a minute to think about an example of an antagonist that you have loved or loved to hate, which is in my case, in some of your favorite mysteries or fiction stories. You can see mine down below, He Who Must Not Be Named, otherwise known as Voldemort to all of you Harry Potter fans. He is definitely one of those characters that's an antagonist who I love to hate. Take a pause and talk to somebody next to you about one of your favorite antagonists. Now with your teacher, I want you to take a few more minutes to talk about the traits of an antagonist that is found in the story you talked about with the protagonist. So whether that be, again, your read aloud story or your story for the week. So again, you'll take a look at the personality traits, the physical traits, and the quirks, and then we'll come on back and take a look at those 5 questions that we looked at for the protagonist. I know you're getting the hang of this, so I'm just going to let your teacher pause on this slide so you can discuss these 5 questions again, now focusing on the antagonist in your story that you chose. The final kind of characters that authors include in their stories would be the support characters. How can they add to a story? That's something you'll probably want to talk about with your teacher. One of the things you definitely want to do is have them take on a life of their own, whether they are a villain's partner or someone who makes regular appearances, like a homeless person living on the street, which is the case with the book that I just finished reading. Who are some of the support characters from the mystery or the fiction story you are reading right now? Pause to take a minute to talk about that with somebody sitting at your table. So now let's take a minute just to think about how you can use this knowledge and transfer it to the characters you're going to develop in your own writing. So ask your teacher to freeze on the slide that asks questions about your characters so that you have some guidance for developing your characters. And most importantly, have fun with making your characters come alive in your mystery. Have a great time writing! Since I did not take the photos myself, I need to include a bibliography just to show the photo credits of where I did get the pictures that I used. So you can take a look here, and I bet that your teacher is already talking to you about best practice and how to use copyrights in the correct way. Have fun!